Simon, you wanted to talk to Don about that moment in the fight. What happened straight after all this controversy and chaos?
Yeah, I mean, I realise I'm going to put myself in the territory of someone that's never laced up a glove and put myself in the circumstances that you guys do. But I couldn't understand I know that you've got something in front of you that's disappointing you. I know that ultimately not being able to jump on him instantaneously is a part of losing momentum. But I was surprised. I've got in my mind's eye that if I'm sat there watching Deontay Wilder, no disrespect, Daniel, Deontay Wilder sitting on the side of the apron waiting for 3.5 minutes, would have come flying across that ring throwing bombs. So I was surprised that Daniel didn't take advantage of a situation, because however much time he had to recover, he was still a damaged fighter, and you could see from the first 40 seconds directly afterwards that there was an opportunity there. And part of me thinks that you're complicit in your own downfall of not taking advantage of the opportunity. I know what you're going to say is I shouldn't have to have that opportunity to be taken advantage of. He should have been gone. Right?
You've answered.
Right?
You've answered.
But the momentum side of things, because I'm expecting you to be like a raging maniac on the side, keeping him charged,
blocks, yeah.
and keeping him charged so that he's ready to go. And I'm expecting him to come out like a man demented, knowing that this is the moment. Okay, I shouldn't have to deal with this because he should be counted out. But this is my moment, and I was surprised not to see that.
Well, it's we lost the moment, right? The fighter lost the moment. He lost the momentum, okay, and that didn't happen. And Usyk, being a superior boxer that he is with the experience, was able to negate himself out of. He took advantage of. He knows how to survive with that. So we didn't jump on him like we should have. You're quite right in assuming that didn't happen. And like the fighter, I can only speak like Daniel's the fighter.
Of course,
he will tell you, and he lost the moment. He lost the momentum. However you want to dress it up.
Daniel, did you feel as if you'd lost the momentum in that moment? And when you look back on it, did you feel as if that was the key point of the entire bout?
I feel like, that was my moment. That was, I don't want to say it, but God, gave me that moment, and that was it. And that was my punch. And, it takes one punch in heavyweight boxing to change a fight. And, I feel like after while I was standing there, I was losing momentum. I was getting disheartened, looking all around.
Confusion.
Do you think that's more inexperienced, Daniel, of that moment than everything else? Because Oleksandr was using all his experience to get as long as rest as possible. But I suppose what Simon was asking here, though, do you feel that you should have done more immediately after that? As in, when he come out, just rolled the dice and put it... Because he was hurt for about 40 seconds. He was uncomfortable. He was losing eye contact. He was going down.
Yeah.
That's when we were commentating on it, looking, going, Daniel's got him here. This is the bit. Let's go. And it was like you think, why is he not going as nice? Why is he not rolling it more? Do you put that down to inexperience, losing that momentum?
Probably inexperience, coming back off a mad injury like I've had, and only a month before this, I was just walking again, But
sure.
So I've got to give myself a tap on the back and say, I went out there and
I made
it happen.
A new coach, new team, 16 weeks. If we're able to do that in 16 weeks, can you imagine what would happen if Usyk is the man he is? And if that was me and I was in his shoes, I'd want to clear this up and say, you know what, I'll fight you, I'll beat you properly so there'll be no...
It's interesting. You want justice. Frank Warren says it should be declared as a no contest after those controversial scenes at the weekend. George is here, and you've got some specific chronological information which you think sort of establishes your case.
I think just to get a clear picture here, as a team, we obviously sit down and identify certain things, and we know that Usyk is vulnerable to the body. He's shown a history of that from amateur boxing through the World Boxing Series. He's been dropped by a body shot from Beterbiev. There's been an instance in the anti-Joshua fight where he was hit borderline and he starts to gesticulate that he's been hit low. So this is a guy that has a history of being vulnerable to body punches. So that's the first thing we have to acknowledge. Going from that, there were then several conversations had between my father and the referee and people within the context of this fight. And unfortunately, not all of these things are recorded, but you have to trust the integrity of officiating and of referees. It's not everything is going to be like a court of law sort of conversation. And we had concerns of where the waistband was. I've seen these other people come out and talk about below the navel, but you lose. It is subjective, but you lose clarity when the groin guard and when the band is above the belly button or above the navel. So that's the first problem that you have, where the subjectivity comes into it. But when the referee then acknowledges that he's going to make sure that Usyk is not wearing his shorts too high, and then there's been further conversations where he's suggestive of allowing that belt line, if the shorts are high above the navel, to be okay. You're now having this situation with the Jared Anderson fight post that, as you said, where it was kind of funny, where you've seen the WBO maybe have been advised, because before the fight, that referee categorically said anything on a belt line is illegal, but yet went on to officiate the fight and see over probably 20, 30 shots on that belt line landed with no complaints. So this is the first it's a very, very, very grey area.
Inconsistent.
And it's completely inconsistent. So for me, when you're looking at a lot of these guys coming out, like your Tony Bellews and whatever else, saying that this is low, they're not acknowledging the fact that the shorts are being wore above the navel. So it's
a pretty basic situation, doesn't it, really? If it is established in law that anything below the belly button is a low blow, then why does it matter about where the shorts are positioned? I suppose from an observer's perspective, when the belly button is covered, people struggle to identify exactly where the navel is, where it's positioned. That's the referee's job. And the last thing I would like to say is that if you study any, it's a bit of, let's say, hypervigilance, but if you observe any fighter or even any football player, when a ball is struck low or something, there's a specific body mechanics, there's a specific reaction or body language. Usyk didn't even gesticulate that he's been hit low. You watch Andrew Galota v Riddick Bowe, and it's clear low shots, and the first thing the person does is show that they've been hit low. He had no interest in that. He was in so much pain that he fell to the floor, and the referee decided for him that it was low, because it broke the script and it broke politics being brought into boxing again, and that's the reality of what happens.
Yeah, totally agree with that. It's all about this whole waistband thing. Was it a low shot? The shot wasn't a low shot, but you could see by the body language and the reaction of Usyk, he was in pain, and the referee, there's no getting away from that. It wasn't just in that little moment there. There was other moments in that fight as well where the referee was clearly working on Usyk's favour.
And this is where the location comes into play. Yeah. And I think that's a determining factor, because when I watched the video, I didn't feel that you landed the point with the referee that you wanted to land. I didn't think the referee acknowledged it quite as explicitly as you would like to advocate that he did, because he was too busy giving Daniel a lecture about how he should embrace the audience and pay no attention to that nonsense. I didn't quite understand what all that was about. It seemed to be about him. But I get the feeling that if this situation... You've always got a situation where, despite the fact it's fighter A versus fighter B, he was the current world champion, so he gets that kind of feel about it. Sure. But when you're fighting in front of 43,000 fans on Ukrainian Independence Day and all that went with it, I think the referee was always going to make that decision. And that becomes part and parcel of it, because we are now debating subjectivity. This is our argument. Our argument is that one referee will sit there and allow punching on the belt to be a certain perspective, and another that does not. And his vantage point is that he doesn't follow the seeming conventional protocol of giving a guy 5 minutes. He wants him up after 3 minutes. He wants him up after 3.5 minutes, because he's getting fed up with him being down on the ground. And that doesn't make sense either, because he's allowed to give him 5. So why is he doing that? He's not really steering towards the argument that a point should be deducted. And all of these things make it a very sustainable argument to Frank to be making on your behalf. The problem for me is we know what comes into play here. There's so much money around in this particular next set of scenarios that could possibly undermine Daniel's point of view, and that's the challenge that Frank's got to be able to overcome. But I think most people are in your camp.
I feel Frank is. I've spoken to Frank Warren and Martin Bowes, the manager. I think they feel very strongly about it.
Oh no, he does.
Don, was the waistband deemed okay by the referee?
The referee acknowledged it. I asked him.
Rest my case.
So how successful do you think Frank will be in his attempt to get the no contest, or whether or not he manages to sort out a rematch as Daniel's asked them to do?
If anyone can, Frank can.
Yeah.
If anyone can, Frank can.
Do you think we'll see a different outcome next time if these two meet again?
I'm gonna say here, of course. We had 16 weeks to for my young gun here to fight a guy who's deemed to be the best pound for pound heavyweight with Tyson Fury. He put up that effort. Give us another 16 weeks and see what we'll do. We'll conclude it in our favour.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.